This is 911. State your emergency. Hello? I can't help you if I don't know where you're at, honey. Where are you at? Where are you? I need as many units as I can get for Fairfield Road. Give me the numbers.
911, what's your emergency?
Hey friends, it's Fletch. I'm Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Welcome to this new podcast series, Off the Cuff, Confessions of an ENP. Brought to you by 911 Inform, delivering next-generation 911 services for the enterprise today and making every second count. In this series, we're going to be talking to ENPs that have been on the job for years, as well as those brand new ENPs that have just passed the test. We'll dig in and have an in-depth conversation and find out what the ENP certification means to them. We'll talk about why they did it, what it means for their career, and what they did to pass the exam. Industry certifications are important to industry professionals, and the ENP certification is one that's admired by many in public safety. So join me as we find out exactly what makes an ENP tick in this off-the-cuff podcast series, Confessions of an ENP. Hey, it's Fletch. Welcome to this episode of Off the Cuff, True Confessions of an ENP. I'm sitting down with Steve Martini, who is the director at the Nashville Emergency Communications Center down in Davidson County, Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, my friend.
You're working on that accent. I like it.
I'm allowed to do it around Hank Hunt.
That's amazing.
But I do get yelled at.
You're picking it up then. You're learning.
It's been a while since we got together, man.
I have never sat with you in person to do this, so I'm intimidated.
That's right. We just have done this over the phone.
Yeah. We've done some WebEx stuff, right, in true COVID style.
That's it.
But yeah, and then in-person conversation. It's Jeremy DeMar. Didn't he do it in person with you, right? At your place?
Jeremy actually came up to the Mark in the Dark Studios in Ringwood, New Jersey.
I was thinking. So this is like second best. I can now say I play at least a close second to Jeremy DeMar, which I appreciate.
So I'm down here in Nashville this week on a little family vacation, enjoying Christmas. Had to stop in and see my buddy in his beautiful center. You've got one amazing center here.
It is definitely functional for our needs. I appreciate your kind words. It is unique in the way we're laid out, with call takers upstairs and radio dispatchers downstairs, and some of the challenges that come with communicating between those two floors. But we've got some solutions to overcome those, and we're continuing to have that conversation that so many people do of how do we get a new facility, right? How do we get that place where we can do what we do as best as we can do it.
So it's difficult being an emergency services director because you need to be a jack of all trades and master of none. You got the second part covered, but
hands down, surround yourself with a lot of really smart people.
Exactly. True. Well, you got that right up on your wall here.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Quote the saying: hire great people and then get them caught up all caught up in their talents. And that's I believe that 1,000%. Let's find fantastic people. Let's find what they're really good at, and then support the mess out of helping them be really good at what they're great at. Then trust them, right? Get out of their way and trust them. That's what made the difference, right? The year ago, this Christmas, right? A year ago, when things were breaking quickly, when it went from something exploded downtown 4 hours ago to hey, 911 calls are losing, administrative calls, internet connectivity, all these things are failing. A lot of decisions had to be made in a very short amount of time, and those decisions, some of them were made without my knowledge. The decision was made, and then I was informed, hey, we're doing this, and thank goodness for it, because had we not made those short decisions, like routing to our CAMA trunks rather than our SIP trunks in a quick window of time, we would have lost all of our 911 calls for the entire weekend. But we stayed up on 911 through the weekend because that tech specialist, Michael Bateman, in his role at that moment, said, roll to our cameras right now while there's still power in that building, and we were solid. And he said later, hey, we're on our cameras because I was worried about it. Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Fact of the matter, everything was still up, right? And that was what was important.
Right.
Now, when you and I first met, you were down in Hamilton County.
Yes.
As a training director, I believe.
Well, training specialist. I worked for the training manager, right? I was one step below the training manager. Just a training QA person, teaching classes and doing quality assurance. And then
the stars aligned and you worked your way up here to Big Nashville.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So I was just telling this story to a member of our team earlier this morning that when I was there in Hamilton County, and I love that job, working in Chattanooga, I'm training, I'm doing quality assurance, I'm traveling to conferences, I'm learning as much as I can about the industry. I just loved that job. It's Monday through Friday, as close to 40 hours as you can do in public safety, some fluctuating amount of, I don't know when the days start and stop, some picture of that. And I love that job. And the county next to us at the time, their director left. And their assistant director had been there 10, 12 years and didn't have a bachelor's degree. So they hired a medic off the street to be the new comms director because she had a bachelor's degree. Not in public safety communications, not anything related to communications, but because the assistant director with all the knowledge in the place didn't have a bachelor's degree, they weren't qualified to step up into that spot. It made me furious for our industry. I said, how do we stop hiring people into roles that don't know the job? And my friend, Dr. Angel Gohagen, looked at me and said, are you going to complain about it, or are you going to do something about it? You're going to sit here in your ivory tower and love your job and just look out there in the industry and say that needs to be fixed, or are you going to go out there and do something about it? So when the opportunity came to serve as a civilian director at the city of Brentwood, I left my cushy job sitting in training and QA and loving what I was doing and said, I'm going to go throw my hat in and do something about it. And it's been worthwhile.
Now, Brentwood, high-profile town outside of Nashville.
Yep.
Anybody lives over there. That's got to be an interesting spot to go be a director.
You're right. Lots of country music, and what I used to tell our dispatchers there was, and same thing with Williamson County when I migrated. The county is very similar, right? A lot of high profile sports athletes, the Titans, the Predators, lots of music industry folks, and then a lot of big. The North American headquarters for Nissan is right there in Franklin. Those pieces. So what I tell my folks is, be careful those 911 calls you take, because it'll either be on the front of Fortune magazine or TMZ, right? One of the two. So somebody in there it's not a small call that you take. And we've had that here in Nashville just several years ago when Kid Rock had a member of his team on his farm get injured in an ATV accident, right? Called, reached the Nashville Center, and all of a sudden it's all over the entertainment news because of who the caller was, right? You just don't know who that next call's coming from.
What's your biggest challenge here in Nashville, moving into the big city that you found?
Sure. Probably our biggest challenge currently is just between us and Austin, Texas, as I understand, we're an it city. People are moving here at a heavy rate. It's a definite tourist destination. When y'all, if your daughter, I don't know if she's taking y'all downtown to see the bridesmaids parties that attack Nashville, but there's a bunch. We're a destination. We have surpassed Las Vegas as the bridal shower party, right, that you go to. If you're getting married, you go to Nashville first. You ride a wagon, you drink a lot of alcohol, and you have a lot of fun. And I'm glad they do, because there's a lot of state sales tax revenue that we benefit from with those visits, and I'm glad to have those folks. But definitely just the influx of folks moving in from other states, or the visitors, and that managing that crowd capacity in a town that really, if you go into the more rural areas of our county or some kind of surrounding counties, we're still pretty rural, right? A pretty rural area. So it's big city challenges with kind of a rural mentality at times.
Do they serve alcohol downtown?
There's a few. Yeah, there's a few places
to
get something to drink.
Because I was thinking about maybe I could find a barbecue place too somewhere.
There's at least 18 of them within a quarter mile of this building.
Hey, anybody doing live music?
Yeah, probably. You try to stop them, right? Try to stop them from doing live music.
So before we were talking about, I think my daughter told me there was a what was the food chain?
It's the Taco Bell.
A Taco Bell had live music.
With the Baja Bass with the tequila shot, right? That's amazing. Yeah. They got a McDonald's over by Opryland that also has a stage and a piano and the whole bit for live music right there off of. It's just amazing. Right?
Only in Nashville, man. So when I first met you, you were just going for your ENP. I think you told me you were going to be testing in the next couple of weeks, and you were all excited about that. And what's that done for your career?
The emergency number professional certification is just one of those, because there's not a class per se, and I understand there's some partners now that are really offering some great study sessions, some great groups. At the time, it was the manual, the end, right? So what you had to do is realize, look at this book. These are the things you're expected to know. Study up on the things you do know, and then you have to go find partners inside of our industry, right, our public safety sector, to learn about those things you don't know. And so it first off forces you to have conversations with people, be very humble and very willing to admit, I don't know anything about this and I'd like to know what you know, right? And share with me those pieces, to collaborate and cooperate with those folks, because what's in it for them to waste their time to teach your ignorant self about what they do about those pieces? So there's a lot of growing, right? There's a lot of interviewing and growing. Probably can attribute that some to my newspaper reporter days. Before I ever got into this, I was a newspaper reporter for a couple of years right out of college, and loved it. But kind of taking that interview approach that says, I don't know anything, but I have a lot of questions, and can I? And when you find people who are passionate about what they do, they're usually pretty open to having those conversations with you. So that, just the process of preparing for the ENP test, taught me how to engage other professionals about what they do and really open the door. As you know, this is an absolute rabbit hole of connecting. The more you ask and the more questions you ask, the more you understand about public safety, the more you know what you don't know about public safety. There's one more question, there's one more piece. Secondary PSAPs, right? How to coordinate with a primary versus a secondary PSAP.
Should they answer calls in a commercial environment?
Right. Should they? Shouldn't they? How do we cooperate that out? Right. Every time you ask one more thing, it's, but what about this situation and that situation? That a friend of mine who's actually now studying, Chris Burst is his name here locally. He's our second vice president of our state APCO chapter, and we were talking just yesterday. He says, I want to grow in my career. What does this look like after I'm done with the ENP? What's next? I said, man, I'll tell you. He said, I don't want to get bored, right? I don't want to get stagnant. I said, really, if you're asking the right questions and you're engaged the right way, there's never a day you're going to get bored, because you're going to look up tomorrow and find out there's one more thing you didn't know and one more thing you didn't know. Just keep asking questions. And that the ENP test opens up a whole world of resources of folks that have walked through that same conversation, right? They've been, you said 1,600 earlier, of certified EMPs or so right now, which is incredible. It seems like a big number, but then it seems like a very small number, really, if you think about how many dispatch, 6,000 PSAPs in the country?
Yeah, about 100,000 call takers, dispatchers,
right.
Or so.
So it's really, 1,600 is pretty small, right? It's a pretty elite group of people to say, I have this network of people that have engaged in their career to that point that I can lean on, rely on, go talk to. Monica Million, I think, would be one. She was here late last week with AWS doing a visit to talk about what they can offer to the PSAP community. Those relationships are so huge as you move not just through a basic understanding of how the call delivery process works and the call center management concept is, but with the challenges that we're coming to next and having this group of professionals you can lean on to ask those next questions.
You know, I think that's becoming really important as next generation 911 starts to flourish and get deployed out there. So you're on an EZNet down here. That brings challenges. It brings new capabilities, brings new operational models that you have to understand how to troubleshoot, right? And figure out new roads around problems.
Right, absolutely.
But Tennessee's always been good from that respect. They were always an early adopter and well along that path.
Sure, we were an early adopter, and then about 4 years ago, and I don't Curtis Sutton, the director at the Emergency Communications Board, I'm encouraging you, Curtis, don't throw things at me, because I think I know he has said I serve on that board as well, and we've said recently in the last 3 or 4 years, for whatever reason, we allowed ourselves to slip out of that leadership role, and there are some other states that are doing. I think Virginia's doing some things with the ESI network that are a little ahead of where we are. So we're looking up at it as a state and saying, hey, let's really focus on making sure that we are as leading edge as possible. Bleeding edge is not where you want to be, but as leading edge and progressive as possible. We put in one of the first ESI nets, and we're really looking. We joined the nationwide ESI net with AT&T just this past. Golly, I think they're finishing up the rollout for all the 911 centers in the state now, but kind of looking what does that next piece look like, right?
Sure.
Video and phones and pictures and text and all and whatever else, right? Z-axis coordinates and all the different pieces that can be delivered or should be delivered, and supplemental data. Obviously, additional data is the conversation right now. What else can I get with this call? All that stuff.
How do you feel that's impacting your staff from a training perspective? I know it's really hard to find a good call taker, dispatcher, telecommunicator, whatever the role may be. It's even harder to keep them. And now you've got this new technology that's setting in where you've got to hire the young people. Sure. Right? So I'll stumble through the in-car navigation. My daughter will sit there and, done.
Sure.
You need the new people to understand the new technology.
Sure.
But now you don't have the adult thinking of a young person in a very critical role.
I think that's how you use your resources appropriately. The example that I would kind of throw out there is there was a team member, I think he's retired now, but when I was in my Chattanooga dispatch days, I worked next to a guy named Bill Thompson, and Bill was a seasoned fire dispatcher and had been around forever and knew the address of you could name a business and he knew the address of it, right? You just said it and you go, oh yeah, that's such and such an address, or that's over here at this place. And he was a hunt and peck typer, right? So when we moved from CAD cards that went along the conveyor belt to a CAD software and it was computer driven, Bill was slow at the keyboards, but he was brilliant, right? Bill knew everything. Could you type faster than Bill? Yes. Did he know everything you didn't know? Yes. So in that moment you went, man, Bill, the way that it was handled at the time, he was kind of pigeonholed over as a fire dispatcher because the typing wasn't as important, so he'd kind of keep up with that pace. But everybody knew to go to that corner if you needed information because Bill knew it, right? When we consolidated the center and we moved away from kind of a police-run center to a more a communications-focused center, they hired Bill as a supervisor, and moving him off of the console and making him accessible to everybody on the floor that says, hey, I've got a bunch of kids in here who can type faster than Bill, but they need Bill to show up behind them and tell them what to do because Bill knows, right? That was huge. So utilizing our experience in the room and not dismissing the experience of the room, I think is really important.
How many do you have on staff here?
155 operational dispatch personnel, another 15 to 20 administrative support, so supervisors and managers, and then another 20 on top of that is your training, quality assurance, finance, 191 total.
Wow. So from an ENP perspective, when you're looking to hire, is that something you require in the job spec? Do you look for it? Is it a must be able to obtain and maintain type thing?
As an ENP?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have put ENP, RPL, both of those. Not that I would put those on the same level. I don't. The ENP is really that comm center manager, leadership type position. It is encouraged, preferred for supervisor candidates. Only the fun story, right? Only 6 months ago did we first hire our first supervisor in Metro Nashville that was not groomed and raised internally, right? He was an external candidate who joined us from around Huntsville, Alabama, who applied for the job with his ENP certification after watching one of your podcasts and hearing our conversations saying, oh, I want to be part of what they're doing in Nashville. So he dropped an application as part of our supervisor process, and he's been amazing. He joined our team. He's been with us about 6 or 7 months. He's very proactive, very forward-thinking. He's supporting people really well, which is important to me. He didn't come in here from an outside perspective saying, I know everything. He came in saying, I know some, but you know more. As a collective, right, we as a collective have experience he doesn't have, and I want to participate in your team and gain that experience also. So he's come in and he's an incredible supporter of people and still proactive in pushing us forward, which is exciting stuff to have him here. And that ENP was one of those things that told me, here's a possibility. I'll tell you what my concern is now. I can say that here in Nashville. If I were at one of the smaller centers where I've been previously, I would be, and I had the same conversation with him there. I said, look, you have the ability to be a mid-sized center director right now. If you wanted to not wait and come work as a supervisor, manager, mid-level manager here, you could absolutely go to one of our surrounding counties and be hired in as the director of a 15-position center, 40, 45 people or smaller. They'll pick you up in a heartbeat. You've got great vision. You know where you want to go. You could do that. Are you going to be happy with your level of experience and education coming into my center and sitting as a supervisor when you could be a leader in one of these other centers? And he said, I understand it. I know what you're talking about. I think you're right. but I want the experience of being part of a larger team and understanding this before I pursue that part of my career. So I'm not sure that I would hire somebody or seek somebody out for a supervisor position at a smaller center with ENP certification, because I think in that moment, if we don't have a really good, clear communication, we're going to fight each other over who's in charge, right? Because they're very proactive and want to lead a center, and I would encourage them to do so. But otherwise, we're going to go, we can't both be the leader of the center. Somebody's got to be responsible when the mayor gets upset, right? And I think it's me.
So what's your advice for somebody who's looking to get into this field and looking to pick this as a career?
Sure. Golly, man, that's a good question.
Well, that's my job.
Right. You're on it. You're on it.
In this particular case, it's my job.
Sure. You just have to be willing to start as a dispatcher. I think it's very important to come in with a knowledge that says you need to learn all aspects of this job if you want to work dispatch as a career. We have some people who work a console for 25 years and retire, and that's what they've done. They came in, they dispatch law, fire, EMS, they answer 911 calls, they do that only, but not a lot. We've got a turnover rate, and I think that's nationally, not just here, somewhere around the 4 to 7 year mark that says, all right, I've done this for some amount of time. Is this something I want to do the rest of my life? Is it something I want to, maybe I did it for a while, what's next? To really understand and really make this a career that says I'm going to work inside of public safety communications for 20, 25 years. That conversation really I would encourage needs to say you're going to learn all the different components, right? The quality assurance side of things and the training side of things and the technology piece, not just the technology piece, your phones, your radio systems, your interfaces to other solutions like whether it's a records management system or a lot of the additional data stuff that's happening now, right? A lot of we've got some great partnerships with texting solutions or cloud-based solutions that are bringing in data, allowing us to interact with our callers in new ways that we couldn't before. For example, a week ago we started texting officer dispatch status to callers, saying, we have your call, you're going to get a text message when the officer's dispatched to you, you'll get another one when they're on scene. That reduces the amount of calls we get about, where's my officer, are they coming yet, how long am I waiting, those types of things. We're keeping tabs on that way. That's new. So understanding all those pieces and how they interrelate, plus the funding and the budgeting and the governance piece of all this stuff. There's a whole career in this if you're willing to look at the whole aspect of public safety communications and not solely the answering the call and dispatching the officer, because I'm not sure for most people that piece is enough to keep them entertained for 25 years. And really now we're 2 weeks ago, almost a month ago, we onboarded partnered with our local 311 office. We've got 10 call takers from a 311 standpoint who work from home. They work remote, to bring them into our department and be part of our department. So my number is actually 201 rather than 191. And really focus on a combined 911, 311 solution, which is a whole brand new component. How do we take requests from, and we've been trying this for about a year now, there's a suspicious vehicle parked in my neighborhood and it's been there for 3 days, kind of this abandoned car. I don't need a phone call on that. You can take a picture of that with an app, send it to us over the web. We can get it. We can send the picture to the officer if we need to. We can send somebody out to check on it. It's not immediate. It's not time sensitive because it's been sitting there a while. But we can use this other non-emergency way of reporting concerns to bring those solutions in. So really for a career, just be open-minded to explore the whole career. It really needs to be something that you're not just, we hear it too much, right? I think I want to help people, right? What do you want to do this job? I want to help people. And this job sometimes helps people. Sometimes it doesn't help people. Sometimes you have the front row seat to the tragedy. Sometimes you get a phone call about my power's out, and we don't have anything to do with that at all, right? We don't control the power company. We can't tell you how long it's going to be out or when it comes back or those pieces. What we're going to ask you is there anybody there on oxygen? Is there somebody who's dependent who's going to have a medical emergency without the lack of power? Well, no, it's just inconvenient. And in those situations, I think a lot of dispatchers that listen here, have done this job for a while, can really relate to that. I can't help you nature of the job we take for those non-emergency 10-digit calls. And I think we burn out people who come into a job saying, I want a job where I help people. And 80% of the time you're telling people, I can't help you, I can't help you, I can't help you. You can only do that so many times. You say, I'm wired to help, and this job is only here to tell me I can't help. We really have to kind of level set expectations. So I guess that's it. To answer your question very succinctly, how am I doing with that? To answer your question very particularly, for a new person coming in, accept a job that you're saying what I'm doing there is calming chaos and restoring order and bringing clarity to confusing situations. I'm not taking a job that is quote unquote saving lives, because sometimes you will and sometimes you won't, and so many times the outcome is not in our hands. So I don't want any of my folks to walk out of here with their shoulders down saying they're off mission because that CPR attempt they tried ended negatively, that baby birth they attempted didn't end in a positive situation, right? That you say, oh, that person didn't live, so I didn't do my job today. It's not really in our control. So really, for those folks that come in and seek this out, come in here because what you want to do is make a chaotic situation more calm, a disorderly situation more orderly, or a confusing situation clearer.
Last question, Steve.
Sure.
How do you become the Martini director?
You put too many letters in your embroidery when you order your uniform, and they put too many letters on your shirt.
Gotcha. That's a pretty simple answer. Steve Martini is the director of the Nashville Emergency Communications Center down in Nashville, Tennessee. Thanks so much for the tour of the center. Always love hanging out here. This is like my third time through the center, and it's just fascinates me every time I see it. You've always been a good friend, man. It's always good to talk to you, and thanks for your hostility today.
You're epic. I appreciate you visiting and bringing your family. Y'all are patient more than you know.
Thanks,
man.
Well, that wraps up this episode of Off the Cuff, Confessions of an ENP. I'm Mark Fletcher, ENP, and I'm the Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Off the Cuff is sponsored by 911 Inform, delivering next-generation 911 solutions to the enterprise today and making every second count. Visit them on the web at 911inform.com. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Check out all my blogs and podcasts at Fletch.tv. And be sure to like and subscribe below. That way you'll be immediately notified whenever a new podcast is published. Thanks so much for listening. If you're in public safety, thanks for what you do. Take care and have a great day.